No, this takes him into zero. With a real boxer, a real world champion boxer, that the only other time he was in for the fans to get mad with that was against Fury's, Tommy Fury, but it wasn't that level, obviously, and all the size things you just rightfully pointed out. But he would have been in there with, I mean, it seemed crazy.
Gervonta tank. Davis has surprised fans with his new, muscular look ahead of his fight with Jake Paul. Known for his compact frame and knockout power, Davis has clearly intensified his training. Recent gym footage shows a visibly stronger tank, sparking talk that he's preparing to meet Paul's size and strength head-on.
You were yelling so much about him fighting someone, fight somebody your size. His next opponent is, by far, the most credentialed guy ever fought actively in his prime. There's one problem. He fights at 135 pounds. He fights at 135 pounds.
To prepare for Jake Paul, Davis has turned training into an all-out mission. His workouts now include heavy lifting, intense sparring, and non-stop conditioning to support his new size. Reports show he's focusing on compound lifts for strength while maintaining his trademark speed and footwork. He's even sparring with bigger, heavier fighters to get used to Paul's kind of power.
Yeah, this Santa Cruz out here to get you. You can't let it burn, baby, let it burn. Mind over matter, son, mind over matter.
This is the blues on.
Ain't nobody doing no shit like this. Come in the desert. Nigga trying to stay away from the desert, he come in the desert.
When the night is cold and low.
Oh, see.
Light camera action.
And fighting for light action. Camera.
Come on, Ted. Come on, Ted. Work out. Work out, Ted. Dig down in there. Dig down in there. 10 seconds. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. Remember that gun on it? They got that gun on that tank. They go, time.
When the night is cold and low.
He ain't gonna keep you here late tonight. Good job.
It's been hard being away from my daughter. She actually here, she sleep. Just being away from her, it was a little touchy, but I know when I'm up, up against, I know that I got pay-per-view, I know I'm fighting a tough opponent, so really I know how to lock in, I know how to shy away from everything, I know how to, I know how to fool around. I said 10 Nah, don't do that. I can't go on TV looking like that.
Even with that, Paul is the naturally larger man. The fight's weight limit is 195 pounds, with 12-ounce gloves. Davis, who usually fights at 135, faces a 60-pound gap. Critics warn that gaining so much weight could slow him down and weaken his explosiveness, the same qualities that made him a star.
Jake Paul, Tank Davis fight got moved to Miami.
I think Jake wins.
Jake's just so big, dude.
I think Jake wins.
This is different because it's similar. It's similar to Logan versus Mayweather, but Jake Paul boxing. Now obviously is way more advanced than where Logan was at that moment in time.
I mean, it's just fucking sick.
I mean, yeah, no, but dude,
Did
Jake,
you ever watch his highlights?
Jake can crack,
nasty,
man.
bro.
He's so sick. I love that guy, bro.
Tank is not the guy that knows how to sell a fight. Tank cannot sell a fight in his own division. You have the Paul brothers and they come over to boxing. Their idea from day one is we don't have the skills or the experience. What we're gonna do is we'll take on the absolute best guys, but they're gonna spot us some pounds. Tank has one job to do, that it doesn't make any difference, that boxing is a real sport. My skills versus your skill, of which I am an abundance of and of which you have none of. Tank is telling anybody that will listen that there's a size problem. My skills and my experience in boxing, I do not have to wonder who's in the bar tonight. Any bar I go to, I rule the bar. No, it turns out that you don't. Just need some big guy to corner you, apparently. Boxing has never stood its ground. Boxing has never been able to explain why Floyd needed a half hour to get rid of a guy who's never boxed before. Tank Davis has already began this. When you choose a dum-dum, don't be surprised when he goes out and acts like a dum-dum.
UFC. President Dana White said few people are excited about the fight, but admitted it might still help Davis. After a stretch of bad headlines, White said this could help Tank regain attention and money. He warned, however, that Jake Paul's height, reach, and power could overwhelm Davis in the ring. While Tank's skills are elite, White believes Paul's physical size could cancel them out, making this more of a test of endurance than a boxing contest.
Is picking Jake Paul to beat Gervonta Davis. This is not a fight that I'm excited for at all. I would rather have Gervonta Davis fighting in a real boxing match against the likes of Lamont Roach, Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, Emmanuel Navarrete, anybody that is in the 135-pound division and around. That's who I want to see Gervonta Davis fight. However, we live in a world where everybody is trying to do things as big as possible. And the biggest fights possible right now, unfortunately for the sport of boxing, is an exhibition fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. So I do like it for this reason, though. I like it because it is allowing Gervonta Davis to have a fight that is going to be big and that the mainstream media is going to have to cover, the mainstream media outside the world of boxing. Gervonta Davis has been, without a doubt, blocked, having venues blocked, having fighters, having other promoters paying fighters away to go different directions from Gervonta Davis. So Gervonta Davis was in a bit of a hole. And he gets an opportunity to fight Jake Paul for $200 million or whatever. I don't mind it at all. As long as Gervonta Davis comes back to the world of boxing after he gets done with this, hey man, you got your money, no worries. But you gotta love Dana White having the audacity to pick Jake Paul in this fight and says something to the effect that, hey, he was talking to Logan Paul and said, hey, when you were fighting Floyd, you know, there was this, you're a gigantic guy, big size difference. There was a time when Floyd Mayweather Jr. had an overhand right that landed flush on Logan Paul.
Former UFC fighter Mike Perry criticized Davis for taking what he called a cash grab instead of real challenges. He questioned whether Tank still has the same hunger that made him a champion and suggested he's now chasing fame over legacy. Perry even claimed Jake Paul's work ethic might surpass Davis's at this stage, sparking debate among fans about Tank's motivation.
Jake is big. Tank has a lot of skill, but I don't think he's the same Tank that we saw the most incredible knockouts. We saw him, Lamont Roach performed great. They went to draw, and, I just don't know. And Tank walked away. I don't know if he loves it enough to beat a guy who outweighs him by 80 to 100 pounds.
During their face-off, Davis looked unusually tense. Observers noticed his stiff posture and limited eye contact, saying the size difference may have shaken his confidence. Standing across from the much larger Paul, Tank seemed to realize the uphill battle ahead. Some fans saw focus, others saw doubt.
Tank looked very uncomfortable facing off. He just did. I've seen other face-off this Tank done. He gets in their face and they're intense and he looks good. He looked very meager up there. You've had 8 fights and you're gonna go tangle with Tank Davis. And the story instantly comes out. Jake is so much bigger. There is such a compliment to Jake within that insult. It is meant to be an insult. It is meant to take away from a potentially glorious moment for Jake. But where the compliment comes is it means the public believes he's gonna win. That's what it means.
Boxing analyst Teddy Atlas highlighted the massive size gap, joking that Tank would need a ladder to reach Jake's chin. He said while mismatches happen, this one goes too far. Comparing it to Canelo Alvarez moving up to fight Terence Crawford, Atlas noted Davis is even more undersized. He called the matchup more spectacle than sport.
Things, right? They should also have like the size of the ring, the size of the glove, all that stuff. Particulars should be in the contract. But I would probably look for one thing that is not the common thing to have in a contract if I'm Tank. A ladder. A ladder. Can I get a ladder? Somebody? You know what I mean? Hey, look, if he hits him on the chin the way he can punch, Jake might be doing a dance. You know what I mean? Not voluntarily either. But we'll get into that more later. The thing that I'm talking about right here is what you said. It was stark. The size difference was really, you couldn't ignore it. We understand the talent difference, the experience difference. We understand all of that. But the size, the pure, and we understand small guys can beat big guys. We just saw Crawford do it to Canelo, but a little different. The size difference was, it was eye-catching, jaw-dropping. And it made me think, and I'm going to ask Richie, our man here who's doing all the taping, who does such a marvelous job. I'm going to ask him, because I know he's an expert in this area, but it reminded me of one of the Rocky movies where they had where they did the wrestling thing with Rocky and Hulk Hogan, a.k.a. Thunderlips. He was Thunderlips back there. And I thought I had it right, and it was confirmed to me. It's Rocky III.
Unbeaten champion Shakur Stevenson also slammed the fight, calling it bad for boxing. He said it's not a true test of skill, but a money move that turns the sport into entertainment. The size difference, Stevenson added, makes it impossible to take seriously.
Maybe he'll fight Jake Paul instead. What do you think of that?
I think that's terrible.
Why?
I get it, because at the end of the day, it's the money business, and you want to make the most money, but from what I'm hearing, he can make more money in a fight with me, and if that's the case, why not fight me?
Sure. Do you think he beats Jake Paul?
Do I think he beats Jake? Yeah.
There's a huge size advantage, though.
It is, but I think Tank got the skills to make sure he come out on top.
Do you think that Jake has gone better?
Yeah, I think actually Jake got tremendously better from the time frame that he started till now. And in the right situation, I also could see him become a world champion.
Really?
Yeah.
Manager Leonard Ellerbe said Davis has been dealing with personal challenges and didn't want extra stress then. That's why the fight didn't happen earlier, even though fans expected it. Ellerbe said Tank needed to focus on his personal life and that leaving Freddie Roach helped him avoid extra pressure.
Leonard Ellerbe said, to tell you the truth, Gervonta Davis couldn't get up for Lamont Roach. And what does that mean? It means that he could not get inspired, that he was not motivated to fight Lamont Roach, that his mind was not in a place where it was like, yeah, okay, let's get it. And he was going to war with Lamont Roach. He was going through the motions with Lamont Roach during the training camp and could never really get himself motivated to really give the best of himself against Lamont Roach. And that probably affected him during training and during the fight. And that is something that can happen, especially if you really look back on what happened with the Lamont Roach fight and all of the ups and downs about that fight being made. Because first, if you recall, he wasn't supposed to be fighting Lamont Roach. The person he was supposed to be fighting was Vasily Lomachenko. You know, the guy that everybody says that he doesn't want to fight, that he didn't want to fight. Gervonta Davis was up and prepared to fight Vasily Lomachenko.
Jake Paul's boxing career is driven more by marketing than competition. Instead of chasing titles, he chooses opponents who guarantee viral attention, from retired MMA fighters to smaller boxers like Davis. It's a formula that keeps his name trending, blurring the line between sport and showbiz. The main issue here is size. Jake Paul, bigger and stronger, holds a clear edge. Gervonta Davis, standing 5'5" and fighting around 130 pounds, usually dominates with speed and power, but that advantage may fade against someone of Paul's size.
Holy shit, Jake Paul versus Tank Davis is actually happening. What the f***? is going on? I guess Tank is going broke because that's the only justifiable reason you ruin your legacy against a guy like Jake Paul. And yes, I do think Jake Paul is going to win. Tank Davis is a much better boxer and has crazy power, but he's 5'5", 130. That power is not going to carry over against someone who is 6'1", 210. And it's not like Jake is bad. Yes, his fights are boring. He says he's going to step in the ring and sleep his opponents, but the only people who end up sleeping are the audience. Mike Tyson fight. But at the end of the day, he's a big guy with power who's training boxing full time, and he has beaten some legitimate competition. Woodley, Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva, Mike Perry had a competitive fight with Tommy Fury, but it's crazy how particular Jake has to be when selecting his opponents. They have to have enough clout to be interesting, enough skill to be taken seriously as a threat, but at the same time have clear weaknesses and disadvantages that Jake and his team can exploit to win. Now that he's fighting an elite boxer, he has to fight someone 7 weight classes down. I mean, Tank could win if he makes Jake do a very aggressive weight cut, but I just don't see that happening. I got Jake by 3rd round TKO. He should put me on the co-main event and allow me to fight Francis Ngannou. That would be an easy first round knockout for myself.
MMA veteran Nate Diaz dismissed the fight altogether, saying it's not a real sporting event but a money spectacle. He criticized modern boxing for focusing on profit over competition and said fights like this weaken the sport's integrity.
I gotta ask you, Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis. Does Davis have a chance?
Gervonta is a great boxer, but he ain't gonna be.
So you got Jake Paul by knockout, or?
No, I don't got anybody, but I don't think.
He's just too small.
It's just. I don't want to beat up somebody that small. I don't want to. You know what I'm saying?
What do you think of the fight?
I don't want to lose to somebody that. There's no point in the fight. It's a great fight, actually. I'm not hating on the fight, but I think. My thoughts on it is let's watch it, see what happens.
Ryan Garcia said that boxing's turning into WWE.
Yeah,
with that type of matchup. Do you agree? Last thing, White House card, like he said, you want Conor McGregor?
Yeah, but the whole thing's on WWE. So
right.
It's like, at least that's happening and it's getting something to talk about, something to watch. And I'm looking forward to that fight, actually.
Former UFC champion Michael Bisping also questioned the matchup, pointing out that Jake is set to face someone nearly 100 pounds lighter. He reminded fans that Jake's earlier fight with 58-year-old Mike Tyson was already controversial. Bisping said these mismatched events are turning boxing into entertainment instead of a sport that crowns real champions.
Heavier. That is at least 65 pounds heavier than you. That is called one thing. That's called being a bully. It was bad enough when he fought Mike Tyson, a man that was 58 years old, and he was walking around like, I just beat the baddest man on the planet. I just destroyed Mike Tyson and went out there and I beat him, and him and his brother are all celebrating and shit like that. It's like, dude, what are you doing? What don't you understand about this? If you want respect from your peers, if you want everyone on the planet to look at you and take you seriously and give you credit as a boxer, you have to take on challenges that are real. You have to go up against someone that keeps you up at night, against someone that gets you out of bed in the morning to go for a run because the fear of them beating you down is real. Not going up against someone that is so small. If you were to go up to this guy in a bar and try and start a fight with them, people would look at you and say one word, whoa, stop being such a bully. Leave him alone. You are way bigger than this guy. And that's clearly what we have here. It is ridiculous. When you look at the tail of the tape, Gervonta Tank Davis, granted, a very, very skilled boxer, a world champion. He's had some great wins. He's had a tremendous career. He's got 28 knockouts on his record. I'm just looking at the tail of the tape here. 30 years old, Jake Paul, 28. Gervonta Davis is 5'5" tall, whereas Jake Paul is 6'1". I would never dream on picking on a guy that is 5'5" tall. Granted, there's some tough guys out there that are 5'5", okay? They're smaller guys, you know, but for 5'5", they'll pack a good punch. Typically, they're mixed martial artists or boxers, yeah.
And so, the big question remains, is Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis an exciting crossover, or just another publicity stunt that hurts boxing's credibility?